I installed this little device that shows you your turn signals, what gear you're in, and even your speed. Here's how the installation went.
So while this tiny little guy here is not going to change your life, it does add a nice little subtle touch to the car that I think makes a huge difference. So I added this front-facing F9 screen here in my Model Y about 2 months ago now. At the time, I had a yoke steering wheel in the car, so there was no top bar here. Well, if you follow the channel, I replaced it with this Squircle, the style of wheel that the Cybertruck has. So now with this upper bar, I can't quite see this front-facing screen like I could before. That's where this little thing comes into place. This will act as a screen that, of course, just tells me the basics, not all the fluff and the extra frills of this F9 screen. Well, I have come to love this. I noticed about a month or so after I got it, it's the old style Model Y.
You can see right there from the car screen, it's the old style lights. I missed that.
And while that's not a huge difference, it's something. All right, so the content of the box are really simple. You have this little set of harnesses here, which are gonna hook down into the sensors here in the passenger side of the car. Then you have the actual little heads-up screen itself, and then the cord that comes with it. And also they include this little trim tool that helps you pop some of this trim up away the cross so you can feed these wires down into the system. All right, so to hook that box up, you get your power from down here in the lower part of the passenger dash, but you start by accessing that by popping out this little edge piece here. But before you pop out this little edge piece, you have to pull out this rubber weather stripping that goes all the way around the door, at least pull it out right here to be able to knock this out. And as I stated a second ago, it does come with this little trim tool that helps you pop out all these different little plastic inserts, but for a lot of them, you can't actually use your fingers, just whatever works for you.
The weather stripping pulls off really easy, and so does this actual little triangular corner panel. It's just a couple clips. It just pulls literally straight out away, but this exposes a little rivet down in there below. Now, eventually this whole little bottom piece is gonna come out. I popped this little rivet out with the included trim tools. You can see here, just pop it loose, and that comes right out. And then after you remove just a little bit more of that weather stripping, that whole odd-shaped piece all pulls out.
Now with this front panel removed, you have to identify two different things. The power, where you're actually gonna get the supply that actually turns it on, and then the OB, the little brains of the center. This connection right here is the power. I've already hooked other things in, so I've already teed off this, but if you haven't, you're just gonna open this right here. You're gonna have power going in and then reconnect it to power going back out. The second, you're gonna identify this little sensor here. Again, I've already tapped into this, but if you hadn't, yours would likely look just like that. So you're gonna plug this male end right here into that little outlet you just had. And if that's all you're doing, you just leave it with that and you leave this remaining there in case you wanna add something else in the future. Now, if you already have another accessory, like for example, I have these blind spot awareness lights, if you have something like that, they're just gonna tee off it, but if not, just leave this open.
And when you do put it in, you'll hear a definite click that lets you know it's in right.
Next, we're gonna need to remove this little top suede panel from this dash because we're gonna end up running our little wire in through the void here, up through a space, and then across this to get to the power to the driver's side. This panel is held down with just some clips, but it's about 10 on the front, 10 on the back. So it's best to kind of work your way down little by little, popping it up. They are gonna get a little more difficult here towards the middle, but they're still just a clip where you're gonna have to learn to kind of balance enough force to pry it open, but also be delicate enough because you don't want to damage it. But it is more force than what a lot of people are expecting. So now with your white harness plugged into this little gray female receiver, you'll see you have an extra still left here for future expansion, and this is the cable we'll eventually extend off of to get our cord up top. Next, move over here, this is your power cord. If you depress this little knot here, you can separate this out. This is the other end of the harness you just plugged in. Again, this is your power. You're gonna plug this into the power side until it clicks. Then you're gonna plug this back into the cord that you just pulled out.
And not sure if you're impressed, but I'm doing this with one hand while holding my camera with the other.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Now that I've made both of those connections down below and I've tucked all those wires back into place where I'm not gonna worry about pinching them when I put any of these like panels back on, now it's a matter of I need to connect this little device here. So obviously this is gonna go down here towards the driver's side, and now it's just the other end of that cord. It's gonna look something like this. This has to end up fishing down through this little gap in the panel here, and it's gonna come out down here. So how you end up fishing this through, from up here to down here, there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. Now on a previous accessory, this other little screen I put in, they gave me this little clear thing that I'm using as a fish tape. This is kind of nice because it balances perfectly, just enough rigidity to be able to force through, but also enough flexibility, and it's small enough that it still gets through some of these passages. But if you don't have this, you could probably get a lot of things that can work. You might be able to get lucky and just feed the wire through itself. But even something like a thin wire coat hanger might work to fish this through.
So I actually think I might have gotten lucky, but I was able to get this fish tape through rather easily. Once it was through, I grabbed some electrical tape and I used that to fasten the edge of the wire to the very end. Once I had this really securely taped together, I just had to force the big connection part down into the void of the dash. Now this proved to be a little bit difficult, so I actually ended up grabbing that little orange trim tool I had earlier to help create me some space to get this through. Once I got the fat part through, it pulled right out the other side, then I just tucked all my excess slack down into the void.
Now you can see here, this is the wire that I pulled down through that dash. Now it's just a matter of just running it down here and connecting it to that wire we had that came out of that little OB harness just a minute ago. So here's our wire coming down, which is our connection right here. And obviously this is gonna go to our connection here that teed off that sensor just a minute ago.
And this connection doesn't make the click the harness did, so you have to make sure these are pushed in fully together and then just tuck all that extra cord back in behind.
Now it's just a matter of putting it all back together. It's gonna start with this big angular piece, which I'll give you a little hint. When you put this in position, it's nice to kind of get it into place and then slide it forward into the car.
But as you put it in, make sure not to catch these two clips here on the wires, which would be really easy to do if you didn't tuck them back in well. I know because I initially caught it and I had to move those wires back into place. Once you get this all settled in all the way around, make sure you don't forget to put that little rivet back into place.
Next, we're gonna put this little triangular corner panel piece in.
Again, just go with them with some clips, and once you're confident you have it right into place, good old-fashioned force gets her in. Then that leads you to getting the weather strip back in, which you saw there I had tucked behind the passenger window. That's a secret little tip I can give you. This just pushes back in all the way around. And then the last step is putting this dash panel back into place. And what I did to really make sure I didn't accidentally pinch a wire when putting this panel back on top, I got some more of that electrical tape and just taped the wires to make sure they were totally avoiding these little clips because it would be really easy to pinch. Then the display itself just slides right here in the gap between the little dash. This little display will show you the charging percentage when you're charging. It also shows you your turn signals, as you see here. Then as I put it into gear, you'll see there's a little red R that signifies reverse. There's actually a P for park, which I don't have displayed here. Then as you put it into drive, you'll see a little green D. Then the most important thing of all that you see here, it shows you how fast you're going straight ahead.
So here's the quick review. It is a cool little display. The installation was fairly simple. It could be a little tricky if you don't have a lot of experience trying to pull these little clips out of the dash. So it took me honestly about 20 minutes. If you weren't familiar with what you're doing, it might take you upwards of maybe an hour, but still not too bad. While this particular little heads-up display may not have all the features that the previous screen I had on did, it still gives you the basics. I think a lot of people have trouble transitioning to the single screen up here in the center of the truck, and they like looking at something right ahead of them. While the screen did do that, in some ways, the complaint was it took away some of the minimalistic design that Tesla has to offer. This display keeps that look. It's still very minimalistic while still allowing you to see your speed straight ahead without looking to the right. And the fact that this is about 20% the cost of the big screen, that helps too. But in case you were considering the screen, I actually have another one on order. And when I finally get that one installed, I'll compare the three of those and see what they have to offer. This little one I just put in today, this one here, the F9, and then also the new one, the 2.0 that's coming down the pike soon. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.